This is Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and you are listening to the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. Kraftwerk, the Robots, greatest song of all time. Hi. Today on the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast, we are going to be talking about burnout and how to avoid it, how to spot it if you're getting burnt out, what it is, and why it's so important to take care of yourself. Because the truth is that we are not all robots, even though we want to be robots and just keep working and get a zillion things done and be super productive. Human beings do not work that way. So I am here to tell you today how to take care of yourself so that you can get more things done, be more productive, be more effective, but not also go down the slippery slope of burnout in the process, because it's a real thing and it's bad. So if we haven't met yet, I was just thinking that I haven't introduced myself in a little while. So I'm Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and I am trained as a psychologist, a marriage counselor, and I'm a board certified life coach. And my practice is in Denver. I'm the founder and director of Growing Self Counseling and Life Coaching in Denver, Colorado. That sounds so official. And this is my podcast, the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast, which I started doing a while ago, just as a way of putting some free information and advice out into the world. Because there are so many more people than we can possibly see, that any therapist or coach can possibly see, who can benefit from these ideas. And so just wanting to put good information out there. And my hope is that it finds you in your moment of need and that it is helpful to you. So that would make me happy. On that note, if there are things that you can think of that you're like, please, Lisa Marie, do a podcast on this subject, let me know what it is. You can get in touch with me on Facebook, facebook.com/Lisa Bobby. No, wait, Dr. Lisa Bobby. You can tweet at me. I'm on Twitter at Dr. Lisa Bobby. Or you can email me, lisa@growingself. I would love to hear your ideas, questions, comments, and if there are things that you would like to hear about on an upcoming show, I would really love to hear that, because I make these for you and I want them to be helpful for you. So let me know what you would like to hear more about. I make these to order. So, also one last tidbit before we get started talking about burnout. We have an event coming up that I'm super excited about. It's on March the 16th, and it is for people who are getting married or thinking about getting married. It's myself. I have a premarital counselor from my team who's coming in, but we have a great group of people that we're assembling, including a financial planner, wedding planner, wedding-related vendors, florists, caterers, all of that jazz. If you're thinking about getting married, it's just an informal gathering place where you can come meet some people and ask questions like, what all is involved? How much is it going to cost? We'll be handing out some tips for newlywed or about to get married couples to think about in terms of, how to handle your relationship or questions to be asking each other before you get married. So if you would like to come to that, please come up. No sign up is required and it's free. It's just Monday, March the 16th, and the bar area of the JW Marriott in Cherry Creek. And I think we're going to be gathering there around 7:30, just very informal. We're going to be hanging out, talking, and answering your questions. So I hope you can come. And that's it. That's all we have on the calendar in the near future. But I will come back to you with more good stuff soon. So today our topic is burnout and how to take care of yourself. And I thought that this would be a good time of year to give this to you, because for whatever reason, in this time of year, that late winter, not quite spring yet, everybody, it seems like, is totally consumed with work. The holidays are behind us. Spring break seems like it's still a ways away, and it's just, everybody is kind of nonstop. And so I've been talking to a lot of my clients about their stress related to their job and how to manage everything. And so for the next few weeks, I'm going to be pumping out some podcasts on those topics. So next week, I have a wonderful interview with a a professional organizer who I'm like totally enthralled by, and she's going to be giving us some great advice on how to get it together just in terms of managing yourself. And so stay tuned for that. But today, let me tell you a little bit about burnout and what it is and how it can really sneak up on you. And I unfortunately know about this from personal experience because you can look at it as a pro or a con, but I love my job and I love working with clients. I love writing, and I feel like there's so many exciting things for me to do related to what I do, making these podcasts for you. But I could seriously do this all the time because I have such a good time while I'm doing it. So it kind of doesn't feel like it's work, but at the same time, I have a lot of stuff to do. And if I am not careful, I will fall into burnout just as easily as anybody else. In fact, when I was in graduate school, my friends and I used to have this saying. We would say, sleep is for mortals. And we would say that to each other as we were like staying up until 1 a.m. and doing stuff and having very serious, intense conversations about all things psychological, and then waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And it was terrible. We did not rest. My friend Danielle, she would routinely run on about 5 hours of sleep, and she would stay up late. She's the hardest working person I know. She is now a psychologist. Danielle Kalo in Denver, Colorado. If you want to look her up, she's fabulous. But she had this coffee pot that she would set on a timer. And I use the word coffee kind of loosely. I'm making air quotes as I say that. It was really like, it was more the consistency of gravy. Your spoon would stand up in it. And the only way you could drink it at all was, oh gosh, she would buy this like International Delight, like blueberry fudge cinnamon flavored coffee stuff that you could put in it, and then you could get it down. But anyway, it would wake you up, and she would start every morning with vitamin pills and gummy bears and walk out the door for like 16 hours. I don't know how she's still alive, but anyway. So, and my other friend, Sarah, who is now a wonderful psychologist in Evergreen, Colorado, Dr. Sarah Gillingham, but she would get up in the morning and run on these 5-mile marathon morning runs, and then work all day. And it's just like, looking back at that now, I'm thinking, how did any of us survive that? And, the truth is that we didn't actually do a very good job of surviving it. By year 2 of this insanity, we were all totally burnt out. I actually developed an ulcer, believe it or not, for briefly until I figured out what the heck was going on. Danielle's hair was actually, I was like, what's in your hair? One day I thought she had like some product in her hair or whatever. No, her hair was literally growing in gray. She was so stressed out. And then we kind of figured out what was going on and calmed down a little bit. And then her hair started growing in black again. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. I didn't know that your hair could actually turn gray from stress until I saw it happen. So anyway, and even Sarah got to be tired and worn out, even though she probably did a better job than the rest of us of taking care of herself. But the moral of this story is that we were really learning the hard way that we were, in fact, mortals, and we were going through the harrowing and humbling process of really actually becoming people that could be truly compassionate and helpful to other people, which involves, of course, getting intimately familiar with your own limitations. I mean, I think that if you haven't gone to some of the places that we try to help other people with, it's hard to have compassion and empathy. And so I'm well acquainted with the process of becoming burnt out and also what heals it. And, it's, I think the irony of being a therapist in particular is that all therapists, I think, start out with these unrealistic expectations of their own capabilities. They have a hero complex, but they are notorious for self-abuse when it comes to, working too much, lacking self-care. And, graduate psychology programs are usually full of these glassy-eyed stress cases who push on far past their physical limits and have no boundaries when it comes to heaping on more work, and give a lot to other people. And I think that this is kind of almost what psychology graduate programs do, is force budding young therapists into either coming to terms with their own humanity and to learn how to set boundaries and taking care of yourself, or fail and not be able to do it. And that does happen sometimes. But, you know, it's that experience of recognizing, whoa, I am really working way too hard. I have energy going out in all different directions and I'm not keeping enough for myself. I have to fill my own cup up. Sometimes we have to bounce off the bottom before we learn that lesson. And so I would like to just leave this with you, first of all, is that burning out or feeling let me define burnout for a second. Burnout is just being aware that you are done in terms of your energy. I've heard it said that being burnt out feels like you don't have any gas in your car to move forward, but you also don't have any brakes. So you can't stop yourself, but you also can't start yourself. It's like being exhausted all the time, having trouble eating. It kind of feels like depression. You don't take pleasure in the things that you once did. Feeling like you don't have energy to do stuff, feeling really, I know I experience it as being cognitively burnt out. Like I just don't have any creativity. I do not have any good ideas. I don't have anything interesting to say. And then on the other side of it is feeling almost like you can't stop. Like there's just this robotic, like, oh, what do I have to do next kind of feeling. And so that is what being burnt out involves. And I'll talk a little bit more in depth about the physiology of burnout, but also some things that you can do to help yourself back from that, because it's very, very common. And the thing is that a lot of people don't even realize that it's happening. They just come in and they might think that they're depressed or they have low energy, or maybe they have a kind of a vague sense that they should be eating better or exercising more, but they really just need to stop and rest and let their body settle back down. So first of all, if you're here listening to this podcast, if this intrigued you, I would like to say congratulations, because understanding that this is something to work on and that you need to learn how to take care of yourself and how to slow down is the first step to making changes. And so, that is ultimately what will save you is noticing like, this does not feel good. I can't keep doing this. And then, being able to make changes that can take you to a better place. So first of all, let me talk to you a little bit more about burnout in like almost the clinical sense, because we toss the phrase burnout around, really easily. Like it's, oh, I'm so burnt out. Like it doesn't really mean anything. But as you know, if you have ever been through serious, for real burnout, it is kind of a big deal. Burnout is just the layperson's term for what we were just talking about, that physical, emotional, and cognitive consequences of chronic stress. And so burnout, chronic stress are sort of interchangeable terms, but when chronic stress is like long-term persistent stress, but burnout is what it does to you eventually. That is the consequence of chronic stress. And so chronic stress affects everything. And to give you an example of why being stressed out persistently matters so much and what it'll do, have you ever, I'm sure you have, well, think of at least that feeling that you get after you've been scared, like somebody really genuinely scares you and you kind of like freak out. And then when you come back down again, you feel kind of shaky and you can't really think straight. Or like if you've gotten into a conflict with somebody or a car accident, like there's this really shaky, almost like out of your body kind of experience that happens. That feeling right there, that is what it feels like to get a big dose of stress hormones dumped into your system. So stress hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, at the most fundamental level, these hormones, they serve one purpose, and that is to save your life. And they do that by giving you tons of energy when you're under stress. When you have all these hormones flooding into your system, something scary happens, you get this big squirt of adrenaline. It makes you laser focus on danger. And it also, these hormones, because they're survival hormones, they cut off any energy that's going to non-critical parts of your functioning. So this means like your digestion, your immune system, your reproductive system, anything that isn't immediately necessary to your survival is suppressed in favor of staying alive in that moment. And that is very adaptive. It's a very, very good thing. Except that in our modern world, your life is almost never actually in danger. You don't literally need to fight for your life if you're stuck in traffic or you're under a deadline at work or you're getting into a conflict with your spouse or somebody. But your body doesn't know that. And it helpfully goes on red alert and it dumps all kinds of stress hormones into your system that elevate you into this fight or flight space again and again and again throughout this busy, stressful day. And so this takes a toll on your body. Because when you're going into this fight or flight space all the time, chronically, feeling like you're always behind or there's always something else to do or you're not getting enough rest or you can't just kind of calm back down again, you're chronically stressed. You will get sick more easily. You will have digestive problems. You literally do not heal as quickly when you're wounded if you're under chronic stress. I saw one fascinating study which took two groups of people. There was one group that was chronically stressed and one that wasn't stressed. And the researchers gave them both a superficial wound on their arm, a skin abrasion. And the group of chronically stressed people took twice as long for that little place on their arm to heal, as opposed to the people reporting normal levels of stress. So how is that for evidence that stress is physically real? It changes what happens in your body, and not in a good way. And your body also, in addition to the system that elevates you and keeps you alive, your body also has a relaxation response that works to soothe you and bring you back down again once danger has passed. So when the danger has passed and you feel safer, your stress hormones drop and relaxation hormones are released and your heart rate starts to slow down, your breathing deepens, your muscles relaxed. At least that's how it should work. But the problem is that you're experiencing frequent waves of stress. Like, so throughout your day, you can't find your keys and there's a big surge of stress, and then you're stuck in traffic and there's a surge, and you're late to work, and your boss wants something and you didn't get it done on time, and then your kid's school is calling and whatever. So over the day, your stress response just surges again and again and over again throughout the day, so that your relaxation response never even has a chance to do its job and calm you back down again before the next perceived threat gets you worked back all over again. And so the result is that you always feel tense and rushed and panicky and worried about something. And after a while, your relaxation response becomes actually disordered. You can't calm down and return to baseline. And so when people talk about adrenal fatigue, they're talking about two things here: that your stress response, it is like actually burnt out. If you stay in that elevated state long enough, your stress response stops working too, and that's when it gets really bad, because your hormones actually don't work the same way. It's like a fuse that gets blown. So your stress hormones don't work as properly, so you don't get that surge that you should when you need to have some extra energy, and that means you get exhausted, you have trouble concentrating, you feel emotionally numb, totally unmotivated, but also your body can't calm you back down anymore because that has gotten so burnt out. It's like you've been overriding this natural system so long, it's like the switch is broken. So you can't calm yourself back down. And so it's like this dual process, that no gas and no brakes kind of feeling, which is when you're officially in burnout. So it feels like being stressed out and like never okay, but also like numb and exhausted. And remember, when you're in that stress response, it disrupts your digestion, your sleep cycles, your immune system, basically everything that you need to stay healthy, right? So you feel exhausted, you get sick, you either start gaining weight or losing it, and you just feel like it's impossible to get enough rest. You're dead tired and you're waking up at 2:30 in the morning and you can't go back to sleep. It's awful. And it also takes a toll on your mind, because when you're under stress, you become hyper-focused on negativity and possible threats, which is also very adaptive, right? So be looking around and thinking, if you're in that fight or flight response, to be very alert for danger. Like, okay, what could jump out of the bushes at me or whatever. But when we're in a kind of chronic stress sort of situation, since there's not any immediate danger, like something that will kill you, our minds often wander out into the future to find danger that sort of fits with that anxious feeling. And so we can always find things to worry about when we time travel into the future. And so then we get really focused on possible negative outcomes or possible threats, and we start to feel pessimistic and anxious, and make us worry about potential threats that then elevate us all over again, and give us, another surge of adrenaline, or not a weak surge of adrenaline if you're already in this total burnout state. And again, it's just so hard, and I'm kind of talking about it cheerily, but the actual consequence is that people are in such a bad state here because they become numb, they are joyless and exhausted, but they also become very overwhelmed and easily irritated and cynical, and it's very hard for them to kind of calm down. They lose their sense of meaning, they lose their sense of purpose, and it's not good. And chronic stress like this can very easily bloom into depression without intervention. I mean, if you stay in this space long enough, it turns into depression. So, and I don't even need to tell you, if you've experienced this for any time at all, of the trouble that it can cause for your relationships, especially when one person is burnt out and the other person doesn't understand what in the heck has happened to their once loving and pleasant partner. It's just they're irritated and exhausted and joyless and negative and don't ever want to do anything, and sometimes often mean and snappy to boot. So burnout can really just create consequences in every area of your life. And I think the worst part is that it creates problems in the areas of your life that could help. If you spent more time with your relationships, if you had enough energy to exercise, these are the kinds of things that can help you calm back down again. So, all right, we've established that burnout and chronic stress is bad. And really, I think the worst effect of chronic stress and burnout is emotional. And I say this from my own personal experience, but also observing lots of other people go through this process, is that people who are in a state of burnout or chronic stress often have a very difficult time empathizing with other people. You become so frazzled and anxious and stressed out that you just don't have the bandwidth anymore to be generous to other people or to be aware of the emotional experience of other people. And this lack of empathy can be very damaging to relationships. So even after burnout is over, the wounds inflicted during the time that you weren't well can take much longer to heal. So relationships can get ruptured during burnout periods, and it takes energy to fix it. So it's important to get your energy back so that you can heal yourself and your relationships, and also function better in general. So let me tell you how to heal from burnout. First of all, step number 1 is that you have got to stop believing the big lie. I call it the big lie because I think that this is a lie that we all get tricked into believing at one time or another in our lives, and that our culture certainly supports. And the lie, and the biggest thing that keeps people stuck in this cycle in the first place, is this belief that they should be able to do it all, to keep going, to work 16 hours a day, to be perfect, to do everything just right, to get it all done, to clean out their email box, to have a clean house, to be on time, to blah, everything, and also not be stressed while they're doing it. And when people begin to believe that the burnout experience, the only reason that they feel so badly, is because of their own personal shortcomings, that is when you'll get really depressed. So you know, and believing that you should be able to do it all makes it impossible to do the things that will actually help you recover from burnout and being able to be more effective in the long term, like rest, say no to things, take care of yourself, exercise regularly. If you have this frantic, like, I should be able to do all this stuff, it really impairs your ability to set boundaries for yourself and take care of yourself. So reframing your negative experience of, hey, I am stressed out, I am feeling burnt out, will actually help you be more gentle with yourself if you can first accept that there is a reason why you're feeling that way. So to be able to say, hey, I am bumping up against my natural limitations. I'm not actually made to work this hard or to work this constantly or to be under this much stress. So instead of beating yourself up for not being able to get everything done, switch that and say, oh, hey, you know what? I feel really bad, and it is my body's emotional guidance system trying to tell me something really important that I should listen to, that I am not actually a robot, and I need to calm down and take care of myself. So that, one, challenge the big lie, and then two, understand that there are physical processes at work in your body that must be respected. And the most basic way of understanding this is what comes up, meaning the stress response, must come back down again, that relaxation response. So being stressed out sometimes is not a bad thing. Stress can be good for us. It makes us alert. It helps us get things done. It's okay to be stressed sometimes. But having a lifestyle that prevents you from resetting your clock and coming back down into relaxation on a regular basis will harm you. So those first two steps in recovering from burnout are really all about self-awareness, self-awareness that you're not okay and that something needs to change, and then self-awareness around that physical process going on inside of you. So knowledge is power. Okay, now let's start talking about what you can do to feel better again and feel like a human being again, now that we've talked about what is going on inside of you that is making you feel so bad. And I'm going to give you some tips, but also, none of these are really complicated things to do, but I think that they can feel difficult to do. So I'm going to be talking about not just what to do, but hopefully give you some new ideas that will make it easier to actually implement these suggestions I have for you. And the first one, and I think the hardest one for chronically stressed people to swallow, is that you are going to need some time to recover, just time. And let me just tell you, the first time that I went to a extremely well-attended seminar for burnt out therapists, because there are so many of them. I was working at a community mental health center at the time, and they actually had this special super therapist come in who is actually a therapist for therapists, because we are a special breed. But she came and gave a presentation on lots of problems that therapists can face, including vicarious trauma, but burnout was certainly among them. And I was among the therapists collectively gasping when she told us that it was probably going to take a week of doing nothing to reset our baseline levels of physiological relaxation and start to recover. And I was like, and my typical perfectionistic reaction to hearing this was something like, but I am far too busy and important, and the earth will crash into the sun if I am not holding it up with my heroic efforts. That, like, when people say, oh, you need to take some time, you immediately go to, oh, but there are all these terrible things that will happen if I take some time. And then after she, continued gently explaining to us by, this wise, mature therapist facilitating the event, that my body and all of our bodies would literally not be able to calm down and function the way it was supposed to unless we let go of these unhealthy needs to control and achieve and do everything. She really kind of did a great job of normalizing it, and that really, really helped me. And Although I think that at the time, what I interpret her as saying was, you'll actually be able to control and achieve more if you take care of yourself. So I think that's probably what allowed me to swallow it. But I'll save that for my next session with you, doctor. But this idea that we actually get into such a state that it takes a long time of just simply doing nothing to calm back down again, and in a physiological sense. And so, what she advised, which I think I actually ended up doing, and this was years ago, but it helped. And I do this periodically now, and it really helps. Although I think that over the years, I've learned how to manage myself in a better way overall. But just take like a 5-day staycation, and don't try to go to Mexico. Don't try to do anything fancy. Just literally don't organize your garage while you have time off of work. Just literally lay around and read a book and go on some walks and make yourself some food and like talk to people. And that's it. For a week. And at the end of that week, you will start feeling more like yourself again. But that is what it might take to just come back into your body and start to be able to feel again if you have been burnt out for a while. And the next thing that I have found, in addition to just being committed to taking some time that is not goal-oriented, it's not productive, you're not doing anything, you're not going anywhere, is really focusing on your foundation. Because it is not about the fancy stuff. It is really, if you're going to heal from burnout, about the basics. So I'm talking eating, sleeping, and exercising, which is the royal road to restoration. And I don't know why it is that the simplest things that are the easiest to dismiss are really the most powerful. And the more you work, the harder you try to help yourself and to do things. I think sometimes we can overlook our foundation and then like the core of what is really going on with us. And in this case is that you need to nourish yourself in order to be sustainably happy and well. So that means eating nutritious foods, taking vitamins if that helps, drinking water, making sure that you get enough sleep. So that means practicing good sleep hygiene. If you want some tips, I've done a podcast on this topic, listen to it. But, having a time of day where you're saying, okay, I'm done working now. A great time is to time that when it starts to get dark out, because your body's natural circadian rhythms want to start winding you down right around the time that it gets dark out. But if you are, having the blue glare from your laptop and iPhone going straight through your eyes and into your brain into 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night and stressing yourself up into that hour, you are going to have such a hard time sleeping, and it isn't going to be restful. So establishing a cutoff time where I am not working anymore after this time, going around the house, turning off all the lights, darkening it, having soothing activities, creating a nice bedtime ritual for yourself, and really giving yourself time to kind of calm down physiologically, and then going to bed and making sure that you go to bed in enough time to get 7-8 hours of sleep, longer if you're recovering from burnout, to shoot for 9. And that means if you need to get up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, you need to be heading to bed at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I think that shocks a lot of people when I say that to them. I'm like, my kids go to bed later than that. But if you're getting up that early, that's really what time you need to be going to bed in order to get enough sleep. So think about that. And then also exercising, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Even just 10 minutes of yoga, or I got into the habit of just going on a 30-minute walk in the morning. And it's just such a grounding time, but just to have a little bit of movement can really discharge the energy, because stress and anxiety and all those stress hormones, they create energy inside of us. And so when we exercise, we're able to discharge that energy and turn that relaxation response back on. And so, if you can, build it into your day. I know that it can be so hard to find time to go to a gym for 2 hours, and that's just more trouble than it's worth half the time. But I mean, like just parking your car at the far end of the parking lot, like getting there 10 minutes early, park in the farthest parking lot you can. And, you get 20 minutes of walking by the time you get to your car and back into the office or wherever you are. So just little easy ways of building exercise into your day so that it doesn't create more stress for you, but that you're able to help yourself and just start to nourish yourself physically. So taking time, focusing on your foundation. And then also the third piece of this is reminding yourself that you are not a robot. We talked about that big lie, that idea that you should be able to do all of this stuff perfectly and never need a break. And, it isn't true. And so what I would like for you to do is get in the habit of reminding yourself, I am not a robot. I need rest. I need nutrition. I need nurturing. I need fun, love, safety, meaning, exercise. And if I don't get that, and if I'm living in a way that is patently unsustainable for me, me being a human who is not a robot, I'm going to break down at some point. And just to be reminding yourself of this every day. And so prioritize taking care of your fragile human self. And the best way I know how to do this is with your schedule. Being able to block out times to take care of yourself before you do anything else. So plan out your week and thinking, okay, when am I going to be taking my walks? What is the cutoff hour for me to be doing anything productive? What am I going to eat? When am I going to go home? And put those things in first. Everything else needs to fit around it. And if that doesn't fit, you cannot accept it because you've already created your schedule. And so that really helps you be able to say, no, I can't do that. And start to delegate, start to set boundaries, start to set limits. And you know what? Sometimes you are going to have to take on more that you'd like, just because we all have to do that every once in a while. But if you are most of the time able to set boundaries and limits around your schedule, it will really help you take care of yourself in a better way. So those are some big ideas for you around how to feel better. If you can, take some time. I know that it might seem like a total luxury to take, 3 days off of work or something. But if you are able to take, a weekend plus 3 days and just don't do a thing. Don't clean your house. Don't do anything unless it feels nurturing and good for you. And use that time to just come back down to baseline. If you can't do that, that's okay, because just build rest into your day using that schedule. It will take you longer to heal from burnout if you don't have a big chunk of time at the outset. It's almost like doing a cleanse, like a stress cleanse, if you do have that time. But if you don't, that's okay. Just build that resting time and nurturing time into your day through your schedule, and you'll still be able to get it. And then above all else, focus on your foundation. So eating, sleeping, exercising, and you will start to feel better. You will get your energy back. You will be able to think more clearly. You will feel softer and more empathic and more reasonable, and your mind will also work better. And so even though it might make you feel anxious right now, like, oh, I'm not putting in that many hours and what will happen, consider that you might be much more effective and able to get lots more done in less time if you are functioning at a higher level, which requires taking care of yourself. Kind of a catch-22 there, but that's how it works. So anyway, I hope that these ideas have been helpful to you, and I will see you next time, and we're going to be talking about how to get organized. I'm so excited. All right, talk to you soon.
charging our battery, and now we're full of energy. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. We're functioning automatic, and we are dancing mechanic. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. Я твой слуга, я твой работник. Я твой слуга, я твой работник. We are programmed just to do anything you want us to. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. We're functioning automatic, and we are dancing mechanic. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. We are the robots. Я твой слуга, я твой работник.